Uniform Civil Code, which we have been discussing over the course of several discussions today. This is a question of a great debate amongst the people of the nation. The provision of a uniform civil code for governance of the country is a directive principle of the Constitution enshrined in Article 44 of the Directive Principles of State Policy. The idea in itself is not a new one, but it finds its roots in what could possibly the Uniform Civil Code then truly mean. Will it be closer to that enacted recently by the state of Uttarakhand? Will individual states be given the onus to implement such a code within their territories, or will an overarching central framework dictate to all the citizens of the Republic of India? We will be discussing all of this and more in the next half hour as we take or attempt to take a deep dive into the Uniform Civil Code, which has once again been promised by the Home Minister of the country. He says that if the BJP is back in power, or rather, in his words, when the BJP is back in power, Uniform Civil Code will be the next big promise that the Bharatiya Janata Party will deliver on. Taking this conversation forward with me is Sumit Peer, political analyst. I also have with me Kapil Sankla, lawyer, advocate Murari Tiwari, former chairman of the Bar Council, also with us. And we have Dr. M.J. Khan, president of IMPAR, also with us on the broadcast. Let me take this conversation. Let me begin with Sumit. Sumit, I want to understand from you, once again, the Home Minister has made a promise that the BJP will be implementing UCC. And he has said that it is our duty today as parliamentarians in a modern India to take what was envisioned by the makers of the Constitution forward. I want to begin by asking you, do you feel that if a time were to be chosen in history for a conversation around UCC and for an implementation of UCC in India, that time has arrived?
Devika ji, thank you very much for having me on your show, ma'am. Well, you know, when it comes to Prime Minister Modi and the Modi government, there are a lot of myths which got shattered, like 370, like surgical strikes. We can't do. Pakistan is nuclear powered. We have to carry Pakistan with us. We cannot live without talking to Pakistan. You know, a lot of these, if you talk of Awas Yojana, if you talk of LPG connectivity, if you talk of so many things which got, you know, even PFI got, you know, surgically removed in 2 days. So Modi ji has shattered a lot of myths which were considered to be unthinkable in this country. And one of them is the Uniform Civil Code. If you go to the Shah Banu judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court and its wisdom has then only directed we should have Uniform Civil Code, but there was no political will in the country and the governments were somehow shying away from doing it. Either they did not have the will or they did not have courage to do it. Now, when the Honorable Graha Mantri ji, Amit Shah ji is talking about the Uniform Civil Code, it means that it is with the concurrence of Prime Minister Modi, and it is but natural, in my opinion. I'm 99.999% sure. 4th of June, Prime Minister Modi is coming back. He is going to be a hat-trick for Prime Minister Modi, and Amit Shah ji will be the Home Minister, which is in all likelihood going to be the case. So if they get that mandate, and the mandate is going to be a bigger matter mandate, the time has come for the Modi government to implement this UCC, because you cannot have two sets of laws for, you know, same sets of people in India. You cannot one, you know, we have already broken that myth of you know, do Samvidhan no Dishan. That was 370. Now this two sets of laws for two sets of people or two kinds of people is not acceptable. It doesn't happen in any of the country, and we're a superpower in making. We cannot swim with sandbags tied to our legs. So this is one of a typical sandbag which comes from the legacy of appeasement. This has to go, and this is the appropriate time because elections are 5 years away after this. So opposition and all will not make any Allah-Gullah voted, and this is what is good for the benefit of the country, and this is what is for the benefit of the nation. Nation needs a uniform civil code, and the Honorable Supreme Court has also said in its wisdom it must be implemented. When Modi ji has done so many miracles which were considered unthinkable, I think it will be one more feather to his cap. And I believe that when Prime Minister Modi takes over the office on 4th of June, this is something which is going to be in the number one priority. And 2-3 number one priorities which I can identify. This is going to be a number one priority, and this will be assurance to the people of India, like BJP and the Prime Minister Modi says, and he delivers whatever he says. Modi ki guarantee is basically promise of delivery. And if this is a Modi guarantee, this is a promise of delivery. It will be done, ma'am. It's needed.
Okay. I want to bring Kapil Sankla into the conversation as well. Mr. Sankla, what could a uniform civil code then look like for a country as vast as India? just in your assessment, I'm sure you've also read what has taken place in Uttarakhand and certain other drafts in certain other states that have also surfaced. But if it were to be implemented across the nation, what could that possibly look like?
So let us start with Goa. Goa is a fine example of something which is as close to uniform civil code as we can get in India. In Goa, we have Portuguese law. The Portuguese law is applicable for everybody. It's a very complex system, truly, but it protects the Goan life and lifestyle, and there is absolutely no dispute between the various religions, various factions, various issues, various other stakeholders. So, I mean, when you actually look at it, Goa is a fine example. The second is our Constitution of India. You see, interestingly, the issue of uniform civil code is pending since the pre-colonial era. In October 1840, a report was filed which said that India needs UCC. However, there were certain pressures. They said that, okay, India needs UCC, but we should keep Hindus and Muslims out of it. And then Hindu laws were consolidated. Now you had a Hindu Code Bill, you had the Succession Act, you had the Marriage Act, and there were various factions in Hindus as well. So there was Mitaksha law, there was Darbhanga law, and all of the Deobhanga law, and all of that was consolidated to make a uniform law for Hindus. Now, post the, as I said, pre-independence era, when the Britishers themselves stated that yes, a uniform civil code is required, and under pressure in 1859 or thereabout, they stated, okay, let us keep Hindus and Muslims separate. Then post-independence came the Shah Banu case and various other cases, which kind of showed the loopholes which are already existing in the system and how certain segment of the people were being pressured or were in a liable or a negative position. So you had, for example, 125 or maintenance does not benefit certain the Muslim ladies. Then there were issue of triple talaq and all of that. All of that has been kind of a leveling playing field has already been created. So I don't see any difficulty today in UCC coming to fore. Yes, there would be a lot of naysayers, but I think that's only for political reasons. India, I think it is right for a uniform civil code where laws apply equally for everybody. In fact, a lot of Muslim laws also have been kind of, watered down, which actually affected the ladies and others negatively. Now there is also some issue as far as Christianity and adoption is concerned, which also requires to be regulated in terms of the Supreme Court judgment. So I think it's a right step. We already have the constitution that says equal laws for everyone. Let us see what happens.
Okay, I want to bring in Mr. Tiwari as well. Mr. Tiwari, same question to you. I just want to understand from you. When we talk about uniform civil code, there is then also a little bit of a fear-mongering that happens in the country. There are certain lies that are spread, which is something that happened with a concept like CAA as well. However, when we talk about uniform civil code, what do you think need to be then the steps that the government of the day needs to take in order to ensure that a comprehensive conversation can be had about the possible benefits of a UCC before it is dismissed the way CAA was also dismissed, and fear was instilled in certain communities that your rights will be taken away from you?
You see, though there is diversity in our country, and we have to admit that slowly our society is evolving. As a lawyer, for last 32 years, I practice and experience that many things are there, and for that purpose, we require UCC. Reason is that in the same society, in the same colony, mohalla, or in the same estate, one person is being treated differently by law, another one is being treated differently. My brother Kapil rightly said that, time and again the courts are passing the orders. So why these orders are required? The reason is that there is no uniform civil code. For example, law of succession, law of succession for a Hindu is entirely different, for a Muslim is different, for a Christian is different. So why it should be different? In case we are living in the same society, it should not be different. For the matrimonial, disputes, The laws are entirely different for the major communities. So why it should be different? In case a Hindu woman is entitled for maintenance, then why a Muslim woman is not entitled? So by way of a judgment, the maintenance was granted to a Muslim lady. The question is that it is the need of the hour. It's not a political agenda. I believe it should have been executed or implemented much, before. The reason is that everybody in the society who fitted or they should have the benefit of the similar law. So I believe as a lawyer that the people should not feel discriminated.
Okay, I want to bring
There
this.
may be certain,
Yes.
AST or civil tribes, and there can be tribals in few part of the area, but where the situation is a normal and we are living in plain land and the law should be uniform. It is my suggestion, it's my opinion, and I experienced that we have been facing a lot of trouble, and even people are feeling a lot of discrimination. So this discrimination should not be continued anymore.
Okay, Mrs. Sankla, bring you back into the conversation. Just want to understand from you on the aspect of the courts intervening. Has a case like triple talaq not proven that ultimately the courts do intervene and what the courts say continues to hold supreme? So would a uniform civil code not simply codify what the courts are already doing? Because you have personal laws that were allowing a practice like triple talaq to take place. Then you have several victims who go to a court and the court passes a judgment, and today it is illegal. Triple talaq is illegal in India. So would a uniform civil code not simply codify what certain societies or communities also feel is something wrong that is happening in the name of religion?
Well, that's a very valid question. The short answer to that is that where the law is silent, where there's a vacuum in law, the courts interpret what the law should be and fill that vacuum. All right. So now when you're filling the vacuum, these are like potholes of different information that the Supreme Court or the High Court say should be done. Until the time it is not done, this would be good law. But then those are consolidated. It is up to the center or the legislature to either adopt the entire thrust of what the courts have desired as the way forward for common citizens, or under the circumstances codify the law that might take certain aspects of what the courts have already stated. And so what you stated, as I said, is very valid, because as I understand that the UCC is basically an amalgamation of all the cases that have been there. The Daniel case, the Sarla Mudgal case, where just merely converting to Islam does not mean that you have the right to have a polygamous relationship. The John Velatama case, where the issue was that, the right of adoption, etc. The Shah Bano case that you were just referring to. So all of that has been taken cognizance of. And I'm very happy to say this because we've been part of, some fact-finding bodies and legal bodies. And what makes me very happy is that the government also ensures that it has taken the other stakeholders, lawyers, my senior friend who was there, NLU Delhi, all of those also in the mix, and asks us to give our opinions and advices. And I'm very happy to say that a lot of those advices are taken very positively and incorporated, because we are the people who are in the court every day and we are seeing what common citizens are suffering. And then so when we opine on something or when we try to advise on something and it is taken in a positive way by the government and the powers that be, it's actually quite uplifting, because we know that somehow we've also kind of changed the fate of what India would be tomorrow and try to make it a little better.
Okay.
So the answer is yes, the Supreme Court has passed various judgments and those are all getting consolidated in the new act.
Okay, all right. Dr. M.J. Khan, bringing you into the conversation, I just want to understand from you, if the government of the day is to take a conversation UCC forward, what do you think are the steps, or what do you think they need to be careful about in terms of having that conversation so as to not send out some sort of an alarming or a panic situation across certain communities, because we've seen that happen in the past with certain bills and certain laws that were passed. For example, CAA. We saw that there was a lot of fear-mongering that happened with CAA. So many Muslims were told that you will not be able to get citizenship of India, or that you will be thrown out of India. None of that is true. None of that has happened. CAA was for a specific purpose, and that purpose will hopefully be solved in the future as well. Similarly, for a UCC, there is a lot of fear-mongering that could possibly take place, where people of certain communities are told that your religion will be specifically targeted, your culture, your traditions, all of it will be targeted and will be taken away from you, which is simply not the case, as has been explained by our legal experts as well. So, coming to the actual question, what do you think the government that needs to do of the day to ensure that a positive and a constructive conversation on UCC can happen?
Thank you very much. In fact, the first thing government can do is large-scale communication preceding the implementation, because any major law to be brought in, people have to be prepared for that, so that they accept it. There are no misgivings, there are no rumors spread. So first thing to be done is the correct communication and massive level communication preceding any kind of action on that. Second is the agenda, that what all is to be included, that must also be circulated so that people are prepared in case there is misunderstanding, there are apprehensions and there are rumors, so that can be set to rest by clarification on that. So debating is the second part. Once the agenda is circulated, then there should be thorough debating. There cannot be two opinions that country needs a uniform civil code, but the articles of faith, the matters of faith, where the communities feel that because of the religion, this has to be, for example, everything cannot be same. If Muslims go for nikah and Hindus go for 7 feras, so that probably, I think, any civil law, this can be respected, because this does not come in the way of national development. So anything which is good for the nation, good for the society, is to be respected, but anything which is the practice and from the religion, and that's a strong belief is there that it is part of our religion. So if national interests are not going to be affected by that, I think that should be allowed, that kind of diversity, because we as a nation are enjoying the dividends of the diversity. So we should have that much scope for giving that freedom. We cannot have, after all, we are a democracy and we are a very diverse society. So that much scope must be there. About CAA, there is still apprehension. There is still, Muslim communities under fear that someday this law can be, implemented in a way that it actually throws many of us, out of citizenship. So that fear is there. And this is because people feel that certain provisions that it contains should not have been there. For example, if 2 persons are found without proper documents, one happens to be Hindu, one happens to be the Muslim, Hindu will get qualified under a provision that was brought in subsequently, and the Muslim will go to the jail, even if he is living here for 500 years. And this has happened in the Assam. I can quote 3 examples. The grandsons of the former president of India, they had to spend time in the jail. The retired major of the army who served 14 years, he had to be in the jail. So such people can be thrown if the police at the lower level decides to misuse the law. There's a plenty of that. So that is the risk fear people are carrying. So in the UCC, I think we should make effort, the government should make effort, all of us, that this kind of misgivings, or if there is anything wrong, that must be addressed.
Okay, all right. I want to bring Sumit back into the conversation. Sumit, I just want to understand from you as well on the same aspect. As far as fear-mongering will then be concerned, how do you think that the government of the day can possibly address that?
You see, fear-mongering most of the times, 99.9% of the times, is political in nature. It is orchestrated. You see, at the time of CA, they were told that Muslims ki nagrikta le rahe. Whose nagrikta was taken? It has been more than 2 years. In fact, 300 deprived people from Pakistan, which includes some Christians and Buddhists and all, they got the citizenship. Nobody's citizenship was taken. The fear mongering is orchestrated because of political reasons. If the government of the day talks to all the communities, and moreover that, Devikaji, if I can be straightforward with you, it's the need of the hour. I may not like to pay the tax, for example. Why should I pay 33% of my earnings as tax? Nobody would like to pay that. But is that optional? There were people who said, why should I get a PAN card made? हम क्यों बनाए PAN card? There are people say, मैं आधार card नहीं बनवाऊंगा. You see, with time, there are things which are not an option, which are a compulsion. Your wish list can be accommodated to a level, but beyond that, it cannot be. And let me, if I can be very upfront with you, country has limited resources. You have to look at the birth rate, you have to look at the increase of population. Look at the recent survey. Muslim population has increased by 43%, Hindu population has decreased by 8%. Because as per Muslim law, you can have 4 wives. If you have 4 wives, you can have 8 children. Whereas Hindus don't have that privilege. So overall, down the line, when you have limited resources in the country, we cannot have let one community have their own set of laws and my taxpayers' money and my future generations stakes are compromised because you have a law which works for you. How do Muslims live and live happily in US? It has a uniform civil code. How do Muslims live in a UK, which by constitution is a Christian country, but has a uniform civil code? How do Muslims live in all the countries of the world, which has a uniform civil code and have no problems? When it comes to here, you have a problem. If I can be direct, when you say, bhai, hum kakas nahi dikhayenge. But when it comes to a mudra loan, when it comes to a Ayushman loan, when it comes to a certificate, sab kakas dikhate hain. Then everybody has all the documents. When it says, I want, hum kakas nahi dikhayenge, this double standards cannot happen. The politics of it is differently there. People like Mr. Owaisi and all are going to object it because that is the business they do. They have to oppose the government for anything and everything. But when you look at the national good and if you look at some of the demographic challenges which the country is facing, which the recent surveys have very kindly highlighted, look at the plight of Hindus in Afghanistan. Look in Bangladesh. Look in Pakistan. Look what is happening there. Where is the Hindu population? Where is the Sikh population? They've all been evaporated. Demographical stability percentage is the key to survival. Look at the history of the world. Lebanon was converted in 40 years. Egypt 32 years. And there are countries like Syria which got converted in 32 years. So we have to look at the history of the world and then look where do we stand? What is the civilizational ethos? We want equal rights for everybody. We don't want appeasement for anybody. We don't want a special Hindu specific law. Hindu ko kuch mat do. But you cannot have that mentality has to go. What Dr. Manmohan Singh ji said, that Muslims have the first right of the resources of this country. So because you have the first rights of resources of this country, so your 4 marriages and 18 children or 16 children are okay. That can't happen. We can't have Rohingyas coming in here and they getting this citizenship and saying, no, because I was only thrown out because I'm a Rohingya and I'm a Muslim. No, you're not thrown out because you're a Muslim, you're a Rohingya first. Why don't you answer that part? That has to be the name of the game. And the future generations cannot be compromised, ma'am. It's a national emergency, I will call it. And in the national emergency, everybody's things will be accommodated to the extent, to the level which are reasonable. Beyond that, best of luck. That's what I will say.
Right, absolutely. I thank all of our panelists for joining us to take this conversation forward. That's all the time that we have.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.